Week 14. Guys, this is going to most likely be our last live stream of the year. The regular season has now, for most people, turned into postseason. And Byron and I are going to hopefully help those that didn't necessarily get through to their bye week this week. Byron, I hope you're going to be dropping some knowledge and help our users get to answering their very important playoff questions to see if they can make money their championships. So today, Byron, do your shoes turn to pumpkins at some point today? Do you have a hard stop today, or how long can we go for?
I've been called Cinderella a few times, man, but I think we're good to roll. This is an important week, man, and this is what we call showtime at Rosterwatch. It's the playoffs, man.
Nice, very cool. So, guys, I'm joined as usual with Byron at Rosterwatch. Rosterwatch, as you guys know, they have an incredible reputation in the industry because they go to all of the training camps and get firsthand look at all the players, what the coaches are potentially thinking about how to deploy some of their roster. So Rosterwatch is a good tool that's respected in the industry, and Byron is the founder, and I guess you're the head honcho over there. So we get to have him here to help us out. So as usual, we're going to be reacting to news. We are going to do a breakdown of most of the games that are coming up this. In addition, Byron and I will try to answer as many start-sit questions that you guys have for us. We see a ton coming in already on YouTube and a few coming in on Facebook as well. So usually how this goes is we break down some matchups. We react to news as it comes out live on the Fantasy Life app. So, for example, Mike Evans, he's back at practice today. Jamison Crowder is questionable. We'll react to these things in real time, and we'll usually take 5 minutes here and there to try to play catch up on all the questions that you guys ask. So feel free to ask them in the chats. Please, give us a review if you can, or leave us a like, a comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. So without further ado, Byron, are you ready to start our Week 14 fantasy breakdown and answer some questions?
Let's get fired up, man. Let's do it.
All right, man. So let's jump to where news just came out of. How about we go to New York? Joe Judge is saying on day optimistic, but at the same time, there's a ways to go. So we'll talk about that a little bit. And I also want to talk about Jamison Crowder being questionable. It sounds like post-game, we will have more information about Jamison Crowder and if he's going to play. They want to see how his his calf is going to be evaluated after the start of practice today. So, Byron, let's talk Jets. The Jets are playing against the Seahawks, who Seahawks aren't necessarily known for their defense. So Jamison Crowder could be in for a great week this week. So let's talk Seattle and New York Jets, the famous New York Jets, who are famous for doing great throughout the regular season if you're a regular NFL Jets fan. Now, Byron, talk about Jamison Crowder, him being questionable, his calf, and what you expect for this matchup.
The Jets soon hoping to be famous for drafting Trevor Lawrence, Yasin. I think that's probably going to be the big narrative this offseason, or at least one of them, and apparently what's going to be a terrific rookie quarterback class. So we have the Seattle Seahawks at home against the lowly New York Jets. My goodness, how Adam Gase is still employed is beyond me. 13.5-point favorites at a 47-point projected game total coming off the sports books. It's the number one matchup of the week for quarterbacks, Yasin, Russell Wilson, and that filters right down into incredible matchups at the tight end and wide receiver position for the Seahawks. It's the number one matchup of the week for DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. I mean, it's just incredible across the board. Even Chris Carson. We're getting word here that Carlos Hyde limited in practice this week. Apparently an awesome spot for Chris Carson. So basically, you feel like a king rolling out any of your Seattle Seahawks this week. They're all basically must starts. And then on the Jets side of things, look, they're 13-point dogs. The best matchup on the slate for them is at the wide receiver position. And I think you made an interesting point about Jamison Crowder, because he's a guy that had felt like he'd kind of fallen off behind the rookie Mims and behind Brashad Perriman in recent weeks after really having a pretty nice start to the season, especially, between him and Darnold. If you look back, though, people kind of got excited again about Crowder this last week where he hauled in 2 touchdowns, Yasin. So I think this would have been another reasonable spot to roll him out if you've got him. Like, I think
there's another storyline brewing here, though. Denzel Mims, who has been on the up in New York. All the beat writers are talking about the potential of Mims. He got injured in the beginning of the year. He's out this week. Jamison Crowder is questionable as of this morning, but if Jamison plays and Denzel Mims is out, and you know Jamison does pretty well against a terrible defense in the Seahawks cornerbacks, what are you expecting out of this, out of the wide receivers here, now knowing that Denzel Mims is already ruled out if Crowder plays, assuming he does?
I would call Crowder an excellent wide receiver 3 in that situation. They're going to have to be, passing the ball a lot in a negative game script. I think it's a good spot. I mean, this is, if you've had Crowder all season, this is basically what you've been waiting for, matchups like this, a situation like this. And then look, it also speaks to Brashad Perriman. 95% snap count this last week. If Mims doesn't go, I mean, I expect him to basically lead snap counts, especially at that X wide receiver position for the Jets. So I think they're both in a really, I would treat both of those guys. I mean, Perriman, it feels hard to say he's ever more than a fringe guy, but I think he's a solid, like, low-end flex play or wide receiver 3 this week if there's no Mims in this matchup.
And there will be no Mims. Mims has already been ruled out. So for anybody wondering, Mims is out. This is, in fact, a Perriman, a Crowder wide receiver look for the Jets this week. And we already talked about Seattle's offensive weapons. So the short story is, if you have a Seattle offensive weapon, you're deploying them this week. That goes with Russell Wilson. That goes with Tyler Lockett. That goes with DK Metcalf. That goes with Chris Carson, since Carlos Hyde is, as you mentioned, has been limited this week. So against just a terrible Jets team that likes to blitz 8 people on a Hail Mary, we are looking at a potential really, really great position for Seattle. I would be very surprised if Seattle receivers don't end up, Seattle offense as a whole don't end up, top 5 in fantasy performances for the majority of those positions.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Sometimes it depends on how much of a blowout it's going to be. They have to score these points to get out ahead by that amount some way, right? And I expect a lot of that to come through the passing offense. But that kind of blowout could set up well for Chris Carson too. I like them all, Yasin.
Yeah, me too. Let's jump over to the other team in New York. The Giants might roll out Daniel Jones this week. They also may not. There's not clarity there yet. I'm expecting that we'll get some clarity later today. The Giants are going up against the Arizona Cardinals Sunday at 1 Eastern. Let's talk about the Giants side first. If Daniel Jones does play, I'm interested in knowing how this might impact Wayne Gallman. And I want to talk about what the Arizona defense is going to push up against other expectations for the Giants offense. There's not too many fantasy playoff matchups that are dependent on the Giants, but I think Gallman might have been a sneaky play that got somebody into, maybe a low seed here. So what are your thoughts?
Well, look, the Giants are one of the sneaky teams playing pretty well right now. I think it's actually a really interesting story. They're going to try to win this division. They've actually been one of the sneaky fantasy defenses at various times throughout the course of the season. It's a little bit of a tougher matchup here with Arizona, but I don't hate that Giants defense at home if you're forced to go that route. So it's a 45.5-point game total. This game is going down in New York. The Cardinals are 3.5 favorites in this one, Yasin. And, I think it's interesting, let's discuss the contingency of no Daniel Jones. I think we ought to take a look back to last week and see that in that game at Seattle, and obviously a surprise, this is a real surprise the way that this game worked out. And I'm not sure how much we can extrapolate this to this week's home game versus Arizona, but I think it's kind of a fair comparison. And we see no Daniel Jones last week. It was Evan Ingram who led the target share with 8 targets. And, behind that, it was pretty lackluster, as you mentioned, except for everybody for Wayne Gallman seemed, we've talked about him for weeks here on this broadcast. Yasin is like a really, sneaky waiver wire flex play. And he's turned into fantasy gold here down the stretch for his owners. And it's crazy to say, but actually getting Colt McCoy in helped Wayne Gallman this last week, 135 yards on 16 touches. Now, I think that Seahawks defense also helped Wayne Gallman. So, look, to me, you're going to move forward with this one, and Wayne Gallman probably feeling pretty good about him as an RB2. I know that's pretty aggressive, but the fact is that's what he's been. That's what he's been over this stretch. It's a top 20 matchup for the fantasy running. There's really no bad matchups here for the Giants. The toughest matchup is for Evan Ingram. It's the number 23 matchup in the league for tight ends. But, I mean, he even got pretty good target volume last week with Colt McCoy, and we've seen Ingram kind of heat up here down the stretch. So I think if you have to go to him, you do. If you have Wayne Gallman, you feel really, really good about it. I don't think he's going anywhere. Elijah Penny, 2 touches last week. I mean, Alfred Morris got 2 touchdowns on 9 touches, but we know Alfred Morris he's a dinosaur. Yeah, I mean, we can't worry too much about that. So, yeah, I like that. And then let's take a look over on Pro Football Focus to see the matchups that they have for these particular wide receivers. Like I said, on our matchup tool at Rosterwatch, it's, a pretty middling matchup. Here they show Darius Slayton actually with a somewhat favorable matchup over on Pro Football Focus, slated against Patrick Peterson. That surprises me a little bit. But I think the one that's interesting here is Sterling Shepard with a positive matchup on Dre Kirkpatrick, according to PFF. I think that if we get Daniel Jones back, Yasin, it's Sterling Shepard that people are going to be sleeping on that we should really, really begin to look at getting into our lineups this week. I think he's in a sneaky position to have a big game if Daniel Jones returns.
Cool. New York Giants side, and I want to wrap up the Arizona side in just here because we have a ton of questions coming in, and I want to take 5 minutes to do audience Q&A. So let's break down the Arizona side. Arizona, DeAndre Hopkins, Kyler Murray, they're looking great in general. Let's talk about their fantasy prospects this week, which is week 1 of the playoffs for most people. What are you expecting out of the Arizona offense going against the Giants? I believe the Giants are at home. What are we expecting with Arizona? Talk to me, Byron.
Well, let's talk about Kyler Murray. 3 weeks. I mean, he's been basically the best fantasy quarterback on the season. The last 3 weeks have been a little bit of a downturn for him. I mean, still 23 points in week 11 and 22 points in week 13, more than serviceable, but just not those 30 and 40 point burgers we got used to. We know he had kind of that 10 or 12 point stinker on the road at New England at week 12. He's been a little banged up. So I think the question in this one is, obviously Kyler Murray is a must start. We have him as the number 6 quarterback of the week. It's a difficult matchup at the Giants. It's the number 27 matchup of the week. So, I think people are maybe have a little trepidation about, are they going to get the same Kyler Murray here down the stretch when everything's on the line in their fantasy playoffs that they got early in the season? I mean, hence we don't have him as a top 1 or 2 or even 3 guy this week, but obviously you have Kyler Murray. You're getting him in there. And I think that, in the end, you're hoping he's going to get you probably enough on the ground in this one because it's only a 45.5 point game total. The Cardinals, as I mentioned, are 3-point favorites. Kind of middling matchups across the board for the skill positions there in Arizona. Look, I like what Kenyon Drake's been doing as far as he's the guy, he's the guy that they get him the ball, down around the goal line. I think he can still. Feels still a little thin every week, but I think that if you have Kenyon Drake, you treat him as a low-end running back 2 or a really good flex, and even in a a middling matchup, you feel all right over there. And then again, let's take a look over, since it's kind of a middling matchup for the wide receivers in Arizona as a group. Let's see here how PFF has this rated. Basically a neutral matchup, DeAndre Hopkins versus James Bradberry, who's been very, very good here. And actually showing a kind of a difficult matchup for Christian Kirk. So I think that, we've kind of pulled the plug on Christian Kirk in recent weeks. I don't expect you to really go to him unless you're in a bind this week at all. And then I think that, Hopkins is Hopkins, but he's got a somewhat difficult matchup this week.
Yeah. He's still DeAndre Hopkins, so you're still rolling him out, but maybe your expectations are going to be lowered a little bit. It's crazy to say, but the Giants' defense isn't terrible, and I think he'll be up against James Bradberry, who's been doing okay. All right, so we've done Arizona, we've done New York Giants, we've already wrapped up the New York Jets and Seattle Seahawks. So let's jump to a few questions from the audience. We're going to do a rapid fire 5 minutes so we can catch up a little bit. I'm showing slow connection on my end. Byron, can you hear me okay?
I can, yes.
Okay, great. I'm not coming across choppy or anything?
Nope.
Great. Okay, guys, I'm going to go backwards this time. We're going to work our way up. So let's start with Angel and Cody. Kobe, who would you play at flex? Claypool, Gaskins, Beasley. I'm trying to get one-word answers for these guys.
Gaskin.
Gaskin's your answer. Okay, we're starting 3 in PPR. McLaurin, Shepard, Tim Patrick, Marvin Jones, Brown.
Terry McLaurin. We're going to play him. Tim Patrick. We'll play Tim Patrick. And then let's see, between Shepard, Jones, and Brown here. I know you want one-word answers, but these are like pretty complex questions here. Let's see. Marvin Jones and Sterling Shepard.
Start 3, PPR. We already chose McLaurin.
Let me see.
There's Godwin that's staring at me, and I'm wondering.
Yeah, you got to get Godwin in. I mean, I know he's had the pins removed there, but you have to get Godwin in.
So Godwin, McLaurin, and it's either. I mean,
and then Tim Patrick,
right? Yeah.
Yep. Good.
All right. Cool.
Yep.
All right, guys. We are starting 3 in PPR. So the 3 that we gave are Tim Patrick, McLaurin, and Godwin. First 3. Hassan needs 2 in PPR. Cootie, T. Higgins, Ayuk, or Shepard. I like T. Higgins. I think I'm rolling out T. Higgins and Ayuk. Who are you rolling out?
Oh, man, it's pretty tough to sit Cootie. I know he's got that matchup against Chicago this week. I think I'd get Cootie in, man.
Who are you swapping him in for? I got T. Higgins and Ayuk. Who you got Cootie in for?
I mean, I'm not going to trust the quarterback situation in Cincinnati, so I'm benching T. Higgins.
Okay. You going with Ayuk as well?
Yeah, I mean, he looks great, man.
Yeah. All right. Juan has a question. Logan or Gesicki?
Gesicki.
I don't know who has the better matchup this week, but generally I would go with Gesicki. Michael has a question. Wide receiver 2 and flex, half-point PPR. Robbie Anderson, Samuel, Brandon Cook, and Mostert. This is a good question.
Well, I'm starting Cooks and Mostert.
I am too.
Yep.
Okay, that's what I thought. Debo has. I like Debo as well, but he's been limited. I don't expect it to affect him in the game, but he's had so many injuries this week that I don't feel comfortable rolling him out unless the guy is full participant whole week through. Got a quarterback question from Anthony. Will Foles or Minshew this week? Or Minshew? Oh, will Foles? That's a joke question. Let's move. Oh, will either of them start this week? No, I don't think so. I thought that was a joke, and then I realized they were asking, will either of them start? All right, Brian, you're worried about Mostert at flex. You're considering Tim Patrick because he's always ranked in the 30s and 40s, but seems to produce as Denver's #1 weekly. He actually does produce in a decent way. I'm not as worried about Mostert as flex as you see. I think I'm rolling Mostert instead of Tim Patrick. Who are you rolling out?
Yeah, I am. I mean, this is the number 24 matchup of the week for Tim Patrick. It's not like it's a stud matchup. I'm going with Mostert, man. Cool. He's been too good.
Great. All right, and we're going to continue on with a few more questions. Then we're going to jump to breaking down a few more games. So would you play Seahawks defense this week against the Jets? I can see the argument for it. I think this is situational. I think it depends on whatever defenses you could roll out. So I think the best way to answer this is how do you have them ranked? Where do they fall in your rankings at Rosterwatch, Byron?
I mean, it's going to be like a low-end, like defense 1 streamer. Yeah. You can play the Seahawks defense this week.
Cool. Eric has a question. Would you flex in PPR Jonathan Taylor over Terry McLaurin or AJ Brown?
Yeah, I'd play him over both of them probably. Yep, I think he's a safer play.
Just be careful with AJ Brown. I know he's been I think he was DNP for 2 days in a row. They expect him to play. They're being cautious. But with a guy that's going to go DNP, if he goes DNP again today, they cannot list him as no injury status. he will at most be able to be eligible for a questionable tag. So just something to keep in mind. Tennessee game kicks off. Is that an early game? Yeah, I think it is.
Tennessee and Jacksonville.
Yeah, Jacksonville, that's right. So it's an early game, so you'll get clarity early on, and you'll be able to adjust your roster if you need to. All right.
Jonathan Taylor with the top 5 matchup this week, Yasin. You get him in.
Okay, yeah, I agree with that, by the way. That's a Sunday 4:05 Eastern matchup. Another quarterback question from Tyler. Herbert or Wilson? I'm going Wilson, and it's not close for me. Who do you have?
Russell Wilson's our number 1 quarterback of the week.
There we go. Okay, we're on the same page. Rob Holland. Just want that up there. All right, let's go. Miles Sanders or Mostert from Logan?
That one's super close in our rankings. Let me take a look at that one. Miles Sanders versus Mostert. Mostert we have as you won't believe this, Yasin. Mostert we have as our number 19 running back of the week. Miles Sanders we have as our number 20 running back of the week. I'm going to go with Mostert, man. Both of those coaches can screw you around with the running backs, and they're both tough matchups, similar game totals. I mean, these are almost identical situations. I trust Mostert more than Miles Sanders at this point.
It's very close.
Better matchup.
It's very close. Look, Logan, to me, it's a coin flip. I think whoever's going to give you less heartburn emotionally, you go with that one if you're asking me.
Yeah, I trust the 49ers offense. I mean, it's crazy to say. I just trust them. I trust Shanahan's offense more at this point.
Gotcha. Quandary time from Chris. I have Lockett, Michael Thomas, Deontay Johnson, and Corey Davis. To sit one. He likes Corey Davis. The opponent has Big Ben. Who are we sitting out of these guys? I'm not sitting Lockett.
Well, then you're sitting Michael Thomas. I'm not sitting Deontay. I mean, you're playing Deontay and you're playing Lockett. And it feels – so it's down to Michael Thomas and Corey Davis. If you're locked in on Davis this week, I can't blame you. That means by deduction, you have to sit Michael Thomas. And dude, just play your stud. I mean, if you and me, Yasin, we're getting in Lockett, Thomas, and Deontay probably, right? I mean, let's see here. New Orleans, but you got to remember that this is Philadelphia. They're big favorites. I mean, Michael Thomas really ate this last week. I mean, I think you just go – this is the fantasy playoffs, man. I mean, I'm going Thomas, Johnson, and Lockett.
Could you imagine losing in the fantasy playoffs because you sat Michael Thomas?
And you chased Corey Davis's points. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you can live with that, do it. To me, the must-starts are Deontay and Lockett, and then you need to figure out personally who you can live with, Thomas or Davis. Yasin and I are both risk-averse enough. I think we're just rolling our studs and living with how the things shake out.
Yeah, I agree. All right, we have a question from Ryan on Facebook. Myles Gaskin, Mike Davis, Wayne Gallman, or Tyler Lockett in the flex. I really like these options. I think you're just flexing on us, telling us who your awesome roster is because these are your flex options. The opponent has Metcalf going to the second week of a 2-week playoff matchup. Interesting. So who are we starting out of? Mike Davis, Myles Gaskin, Wayne Gallman, or Tyler Lockett? I'm personally not starting Mike Davis. Who are we eliminating?
Is it just one that we're sitting?
We're sitting 3 of them, so we're starting one.
Okay, yeah. So definitely not playing Mike Davis. We have Gaskin and Gallman back-to-back as our number 12 and 13 running backs on the week. And then Tyler Lockett, of course, is going to be, let's see, Tyler Lockett here is going to be very, very high in the rankings.
Half PPR, remember?
Number 7 in the rankings, Tyler Lockett.
I think you're going Tyler Lockett. If you pick the second, I think I'm going Myles Gaskin, but I think Tyler Lockett for me.
Yeah, I think you get Lockett in and then go with Gaskin, who has that matchup with Kansas City. It's just more expected points in that game. Let's see. And it's the number 12 matchup of the week. Yeah, I'd go Gaskin and Lockett and try to avoid that 50% snap count that Wayne Gallman's been playing, because as much as we like him, the bottom can fall out on that kind of snap count anytime.
Yeah. So he's looking for one. For me, it's Lockett's favor. But I like Gaskin as well. You could go coin flip with those two, in my opinion.
Yep, Lockett.
Cool. All right. So Brian has a question. Sit one. Justin Jefferson, Michael Thomas, Keenan Allen, or Julio. Julio's out. So Brian, pay attention to your Fantasy Life app alerts. Julio is out. We have Keenan Allen, Michael Thomas, Justin Jefferson, and we need to sit one. That's your answer, Julio Jones. Sorry, I thought we had more of a question. Yeah, you're sitting Julio by definition. All right, Jarek has a question about quarterbacks. Herbert versus the Falcons, Allen versus the Steelers. So let's answer that first.
Yeah, so we have Justin Herbert ranked ahead of Josh Allen this week in a good matchup.
Is AB startable at flex? I think the answer is depending on your roster.
Yeah, I think he is. He's going to bust out one of these games, man. Coming off the bye against Minnesota, kind of Bucks and must-win situation here.
Yeah.
I think it's a pretty good spot for that to happen.
So who are we going, Disley versus Jets or Goddard versus Saints? I'm going Goddard.
Goddard.
Yeah. Okay, let's continue on with some let's jump back. We will save our place with where we were with these questions. And then we'll continue breaking down some matchups and continue asking your questions. We're going to try to get to as many as possible. What's a match? Okay, nobody wants to hear about Dallas versus Cincinnati. We're in the playoffs at this point, so we're going to skip that game for this week. We'll do that later.
Andy Dalton revenge?
Let's talk Kansas City, Miami. It's a 1 o'clock kickoff Eastern time. Kansas City, Miami. You have some interesting options here. Obviously, the Kansas City offense is loaded. Probably a lot of people rostering Kansas City weapons for their playoffs. So talk to me, Byron. Let's talk Kansas City, Miami. Let's break it down.
Well, we got the Miami Dolphins at home against the Chiefs. They're 7.5-point underdogs. It is a 50.5-point projected game total in this one. Myles Gaskin, as we've mentioned, a top 10 matchup here for fantasy running backs coming off of, I mean, we got to mention what Myles Gaskin did this last week. I mean, this was pretty much outrageous because he was still wearing.
Hold that for a quick second. We're gonna talk Myles Gaskin, and I want you to tell me about that. But there is a possibility that Texans David Johnson. I didn't even look down. This was 9 minutes ago. Possibility David Johnson does not make the trip to Chicago due to personal issue. So that was reported first by Aaron Reese. So he missed practice yesterday. He might miss the game. So
Yikes.
We're going to skip Kansas City, Miami. We're going to talk Houston. So why don't you tell me about what you have expectation-wise, assuming David Johnson is out, and what that means for your matchup against the Bears?
I think that the most optimistic thing we can do for Duke Johnson is go back to Week 12, which was basically his best performance during that little 3-game stretch there when David Johnson was absent. A 3-game stretch that had been mostly disappointed. Granted, everybody kind of discounted that production there in Cleveland in that horrible weather game. Nobody really did anything that one. So, look, you say 75% snap count, a touchdown, 80 yards, only on 12 touches with 4 targets in Week 12 for Duke Johnson. That was against the Detroit Lions. And I think one area we'd been somewhat disappointed was in that target share for Duke Johnson. Now, look, no, we haven't seen him post Will Fuller, and we did get that little bit of a tick up there. So, I mean, for me, it's a really tough matchup this week. We have Houston at Chicago. It's the number 27 matchup of the week. I don't like Duke Johnson. I mean, to me, he is a flex play. He's a flex that you're not, you're lukewarm. You feel good about the circumstance, but he always feels like a thin play. So I think that he's like a RB3, a lower end RB3 probably this week.
Fair assessment. And what about the rest of Houston's offense? Let's talk about who they now have. I mean, they have Kiki Kuti. So why don't we talk a little bit about Houston now that we've talked about Duke Johnson being maybe the expected starter now, assuming David Johnson is out, and your expectations aren't great for him. So let's move forward to Kiki and the other options on Houston. And I think a lot of fantasy playoff teams probably are rostering Deshaun Watson as well.
Yeah, it is a tough matchup on the road at Chicago. Fortunately, it's still a top 20 matchup for Deshaun Watson. think we're going to want to check in on the weather on this one just to make sure. You never know this time of year in Chicago. I haven't had a look at that quite yet, Yasin, but if you've got Deshaun Watson, that's something you'll want to look at. Obviously, you can't even consider benching Watson in a perceived tough matchup unless you have some really good options behind him. Look, it's a top 5 matchup for the tight ends from Houston, which isn't really a great source of consistent fantasy production for them. And it's a really tough matchup, like I said, for Duke Johnson and the wide receivers there in Houston. So let's take a look. Last week in week 13, it was the big Kiki Kuti outbreak, 9 targets. He led the team, 141 yards. It was a 75% snap count. And surprisingly, it was Chad Hansen. I mean, nothing we can ever bank on, but they came in with the 7 targets and a 92% snap count last week for 101 yards. Those guys kind of stole the thunder from Brandon Cooks and what seemingly was going to be a pretty decent spot in the post Will Fuller situation. So let's look over here at what Pro Football Focus has. Yasin, they have basically neutral matchups for Kiki Kuti and Brandon Cooks. So yeah, I mean, at this point, Kiki Kuti is, like Duke Johnson. I think he's a flex, but he's a flex I feel better about than Duke Johnson. I would rather play him than Duke in this same offense if I had my druther. And then, Brandon Cooks is going to be a low-end wide receiver too, even in a tough matchup, just based on the situation with that offense. And you guys want to know specifically where we have Deshaun Watson. We have Deshaun Watson as our number 8 quarterback on the week in this one.
We don't expect that to be affected by David Johnson potentially being out, correct?
No, yeah, I don't think so. If anything, that might be. Look, David Johnson was like a 10, 12 touch, 40, 50 yard per game guy. You were praying for a touchdown, and he just happened to get him mostly when he was participating. So I don't think it. If anything, I think it's going to make Deshaun Watson just have to, put more volume up in the passing game.
Okay. All right, let's move over to the other side of the ball. We have the Chicago Bears. There's not too much to talk about when it comes to fantasy playoffs and the options that you might have there. So this might be a quick breakdown, but why don't you go for it?
Actually, it's a sea of blue on the matchup tool over at rosterwatch.com for the Chicago Bears and their fantasy players at home in this one, Yasin, which means that there's a lot of guys you can consider, starting here. Obviously, top 6 matchup here for Allen Robinson. I think that you're definitely going to consider playing him. We still saw Mooney and Anthony Miller actually have a little production with Mitch Trubisky this last week, and Mitch showed out a little bit in a pretty good matchup. And guess what? He gets another one this week. Obviously, that's a desperation play in your fantasy playoffs, but depending on how competitive your league is or what your personal quarterback waiver wire and situation is, Mitch Trubisky actually is a guy that you can take a look at playing in a top 10 matchup this week. And I think most importantly, everybody wants to see an encore for David Montgomery. He had the big game in kind of a predictable spot this last week, which was a terrific matchup, but he hasn't always delivered in that situation on this season, but he did last week, and this week it's the number 2 matchup of the week for fantasy running back. So to me, if you own David Montgomery, this is the player you're the most excited about this week on the Bears side of the ball. And one thing to watch is what's going on with those Bears tight ends too. It looks like the youngster Cole Kmet might be usurping our boy Jimmy Graham here, Yasin.
It's only a matter of time. All right, there's another that I really want to get into, unless you have anything else to cap off the issue about Houston and Chicago. But I actually want to move over to a different part of the country.
You got it.
Carolina has some news coming out. CMC not dressed for practice again. We're not expecting him to play, of course. That puts Mike Davis into a potentially favorable situation. However, new news came out that Curtis Samuel is now off the COVID list as well. He came off with 2 other players. Now, DJ Moore is still on the COVID list. So let's talk Carolina. They're playing Denver, and I want to get your understanding of what the Denver running back situation is going to look like this week for anybody that's hopeful. But let's talk Carolina and Denver, and why don't we start off with the Carolina side?
Well, I mean, if we don't get any DJ Moore and we do get some Curtis Samuel, I mean, we had a question about Robbie Anderson earlier. I mean, that's a pretty no DJ Moore. All of a sudden, you're pretty interested. Now, it is a difficult matchup here. It's one of the bottom 5 matchups in the league for Carolina wide receivers. But I think if you can take one of those guys out of the mix, everything gets a lot clearer, and you begin to warm up to the Samuels and the Andersons if we've got no DJ Moore. So to me, those guys are wide receiver 3s that you're going to play if, in fact, there is no DJ Moore. To your point, Curtis Samuel, when he was in and really hot, it seemed like that coincided a little bit with the swoon from Mike Davis. In the end, Mike Davis just not a guy who's going to be explosive on the season in a large sample. But, it's the number 12 matchup of the week here, and he's going to have the backfield to himself. So I'm going to treat him kind of like a flex. Maybe I like him more than that Duke Johnson type flex we were talking about earlier. I'd say Mike Davis is probably like a high-end running back 3, low-end RB2 is a pretty good expectation this week. So there are a lot of people who will be getting him in this one, Yasin.
Cool. With DJ Moore still on COVID list, and for now let's assume that he won't come off COVID list, how does that impact the wide receiver look this week for Carolina against Denver?
Well, and I think it might impact, no CMC, no DJ Moore might impact Teddy Bridgewater too, who some folks might be thinking about playing. I think that makes him more of a middling or higher end QB2. Let's see who Robbie Anderson is projected against here. He's projected against Devontae Busby, a fairly decent matchup here for Robbie Anderson. Robbie Anderson probably becomes a wide receiver 2. I'd say middling wide receiver 2. And Curtis Samuel becomes probably an awesome flex play or a good flex play if there is no DJ Moore. I think he's the kind of guy that the more touches he gets, those are high value with every time he touches the ball. I think Curtis Samuel is absolutely, I would start Curtis Samuel right there in the pocket with a Duke Johnson this week. If I was an owner, I treat those guys are all flex plays that a lot of teams will want to utilize.
Very cool. Let's move over to Denver. Let's talk about their running backs, because I think it's still, who are we playing? Are we playing either of them? What are we doing? It's fantasy playoffs and it's really crunch time. So what's the recommendation here? What's the logical thing to do, knowing that logic may not prevail here? And it could be wrong, but if you were just going based on pure logic, are you rolling out Philip Lindsay or Melvin Gordon?
Well, most people aren't going to be facing the decision between. If I have both of them, I'm rolling out.
Which one are you expecting to get the majority of looks?
I like Melvin Gordon. You got to remember, this is that Panthers matchup that we've seen so many guys. We've seen Ronald Jones, Josh Jacobs. We've seen a lot of guys feast. We saw Fournette feast. These guys have feasted, and I think a lot of those guys are more in the mold of Melvin Gordon, who, just from a performance perspective, I think is clearly the lead back in Denver. So I like Melvin Gordon. I think Melvin Gordon's maybe a sneaky play this week that maybe most people won't be giving him enough credit. But I also think, look, anytime you have this kind of matchup, it could be Philip Lindsay, who was, basically got 14 touches to Melvin Gordon 16 last week. So if I own Philip Lindsay, this is one of the times I'm feeling most optimistic about getting him in to my lineup as a flex. And if I own Melvin Gordon, I feel pretty good about getting him in as, he's probably your RB3. And to me, he's more likely to really produce as an RB2 this week. That feels nice in your fantasy playoffs right out of the gate.
By the way, T. Higgins, coach, is optimistic that he will play on Sunday for the Bengals. So now that we've done a few more ones, I want to move back over to the chats. We have a ton of questions that we still need to catch up on. So let's go back to, let's see. We have a ton that we need to catch up on. We'll see if we can get this going.
Let's do it.
Okay. Steve has a question. Debo or Lockett? I'm going Lockett. You are as well.
Lockett. Even Yasin could answer that one. Come on, guys.
CJ wants to know, are we starting Rivers, Carr, Bridgewater, or Tua? 4-point touchdown pass. Thank you for that.
Rivers.
Okay. Not that I disagree. It's just
yeah, it's not a. It's kind of scuzzy.
Booker or Connor? I'm going Connor. Who are you going?
Connor.
Okay. All right. Eddie is asking, Swift, is he there? Where did this question go? Sanders or Taylor? We need to sit one. I think I'm putting Swift.
I mean, they're saying he's pretty likely to. Sounds like he's trending towards playing in it. If he does, this is potentially an awesome matchup for DeAndre Swift. Clyde, dude, I might sit Miles. I think I'm sitting Miles Sanders, and unless I get goosey about Swift's status. If you're worried about Swift's status, clearly he's the one you bench. But if it sounds like he's going to go and get a pretty good complement of snaps, dude, I would bench Miles Sanders in a horrible matchup.
All right. Wow, we have a lot of catching up to do still, so we'll continue trying, guys. Are we flexing Hilton or Kuti? PPR one asks.
I mean, see why Hilton here. Let me get his matchup. Indianapolis. Oh yeah, we're going T.Y. Hilton in a 50.5 point game total. I like that one.
Cool. Oh man, these questions are really rolling in. I'm having a hard time picking them. They're going so fast. Fournette, McKissick, or CEH in flex? This is for Luja.
Clyde.
Okay. Let's go. Trying to catch up. Don't think. D. Montgomery or Swift for Teddy?
Montgomery.
Melvin Gordon or Brandon Ayuk? Half PPR for Marcus.
All right, so that's that. Who's that matchup is with Washington, I think, for San Francisco. Yeah, so that one's easy. We'll go Melvin Gordon.
Okay. Are we going in a 6-point touchdown league? Trubisky, Carr, or Stafford?
We have Trubisky. Did you say Carr and Stafford? So we're going to go with Trubisky. Yeah. Trubisky, one spot ahead of Matt Stafford.
Okay. Russ has a question. They have DK and Lockett, and I can't decide who to start. I would start both of them. Who are you starting, Byron? Both of them?
I wish that was an option. Man, I'm starting. Yeah, I'm starting both if I can, but if I have to pick, it's going to be DK Metcalf.
I don't know how many options you should. I mean, who else do you have? DeAndre Hopkins that you're deciding?
These are Rice.
These guys that, yeah.
Calvin Johnson.
This is a week where one of them is, I'm making room in my flex to roll both of them out if possible.
That's right.
Are we starting Boyd or Antonio Brown? Julio out put me here.
I'd roll with AB.
Okay. Kuti or Lockett? We're going Lockett, right?
Yep.
Standard scoring, Mike Davis, Deontay Johnson. Standard scoring. I think I'm still going Deontay Johnson.
Yeah, man, you can't make that mistake. You got to put Deontay in.
Yeah. All right. We have a rank question. 5 flexes. This is a lot, guys. We have too many questions to do a rank question right now. Gaskin or McLaurin? I think we already answered this one. We went McLaurin. No, we didn't answer this one. McLaurin, though, I think is the correct answer. Do you agree?
Boy, that sure is tough. Gaskin had a monster this last week.
It is tough.
I think McLaurin is the safe one in PPR.
Cool. Just want to, as I'm looking for another question, I think this is good advice. Start Julio on your bench. All right. Steve has a question. Pick one. I'm assuming Corey Daisy, Landry, and Boyd. PPR.
Corey Davis.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be Corey Davis, right? I mean, well, this matchup is.
For me, it's Davis or Landry, but I guess we're going Davis.
Yeah, I mean Landry's been awesome. Now, I just don't know the matchup with Baltimore. It's not horrible. I mean, it's not the worst like it used to be in past years, but
yeah,
Corey Davis is a number 2 matchup of the week in a 52.5 point game total at Jaguars. That's a game you want some action in.
Cool. That was AZ says, "Sup, fellas? What's up?"
Word.
Pick 2: Brady, Allen, or Herbert. Ooh, super flex. I like it. I'm going Allen and Herbert. I think I'm not going Brady, interestingly. Who are you going?
Yeah, we have Herbert and Allen ranked higher than Brady.
How about Herbert or Tannehill?
We have Herbert. Oh, just between those two?
Yes.
Man, me personally, I want to go Atlanta, but we have Tannehill ranked high. I want to go Herbert, but we have Tannehill higher in the rankings this week, so I got to stay true to our inputs, man. Ryan Tannehill.
I mean, I still like Herbert, but I don't have inputs to take a look at. So you're saying that's what the numbers say. I guess we go with that, but I like Herbert like you.
My gut says Herbert.
Godwin, so this is for Justin. Godwin, Antonio Brown, or Sterling Shepard?
Godwin is my inclination. I mean, what are they saying about this procedure getting the pin out? Is he hampered at all by that, or is he?
I don't think so. I think he's going to be okay.
Godwin.
Yeah, I think I'm going Godwin. He's been practicing in full. I don't expect it to. But I'm not a medical expert, but I'm not expecting it to be an issue. All right, Dallas or Carolina defense for Dustin?
Let's see. So we got Dallas at Cincinnati, or we've got Carolina against Denver. I think it's going to be Carolina.
Okay.
Let's see. Let me just double check. Dallas is 3.5-point favorite at Cincinnati, 42.5, and then Carolina is a 3.5-point favorite, 46. Yeah, I think I'm going Carolina at home, man.
Okay.
Drew Lock makes some mistakes, you know.
What three should I start? Tyler Boyd, Antonio Brown, Kenyon Drake, Jameson Crowder, or Darnell Mooney. I'll kick this off with two that I'm definitely starting: Kenyon Drake and Jameson Crowder. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. So
all right, great.
Kenyon Drake.
So I'm going
full point PPR.
I'm going Kenyon Drake and Jameson Crowder, and we have one more, unless you disagree with me.
No, those are good, and then I'd throw Antonio Brown in there.
Got it. Okay, let's go. And a bunch of people are asking Gaskin or McLaurin, so let's answer it again. Just last time, but I'm seeing it a ton from different people.
Well, we want to sleep at night, so we're gonna play Terry McLaurin.
Yeah. All right. PPR for Average Joe. Are we starting Hurst, Dalton Schultz, or Cole Kmet?
I think we're going to have Schultz ranked the highest here. Let's see. Dalton Schultz. Yep. Dalton Schultz, the number 2 matchup of the week. We're going to roll with him.
Standard non-PPR league for Chris Ferreira. Have to start 2 of these. J.K. Dobbins, who Byron loves and I don't love. Nick Chubb, who I love. I'm assuming you love too. Or Mike Davis. I mean, for me, this is an obvious question between Mike Davis or J.K. Dobbins because Chubb with playoffs on the line. So we have between Dobbins and Davis.
So we have J.K. Dobbins at number. Dude, we're going to roll with J.K. Dobbins, man. That's who we've got ranked higher. I know Davis. Davis is kind of the safe play, but he's disappointed so much. Dobbins is starting to become featured there with Baltimore, so go with him.
Non-PPR, tight end, Gronk or Thomas?
Oh, this one's easy. Gronk.
Cool.
Love Gronk this week.
Okay, who do we start at tight end, Hurst or Goddard? This is for Enrique.
That's going to be close too. You know, we have Zach Ertz back in the fold. We got a rookie quarterback starting there. But we are still going to have Dallas Goedert edging out Hayden Hurst just by a few spots here.
Cool. Full PPR for Christian. We're picking 2. Drake, Gore, Gurley, Latavius Murray. I think Gurley is expected to be back in Gurley form. I'm personally going Drake and Gurley.
Yeah, that's awesome. Should feel pretty confident about that, Christian.
Yeah, cool. Confidence level on Zeke with calf injury, but versus Cincy.
7.5.
Out of 10 or 100?
I'll go with 10 in this one.
Cool.
I own Zeke too, guys, so I'll be rooting for him as well, man. We need him to pull through in this one.
Christian has a question. Full PPR, pick 3. Michael Thomas, Lockett, Anderson, Mike Williams, or Crowder. So we're sitting 2 of them.
I'm going to sit Mike Williams, and this comes down to Crowder versus Anderson. I like Robbie Anderson if there's no DJ Moore.
Okay. Josh has a question. What 3 should I start? Tyler Boyd, Antonio Brown, Kenyon Drake, Jamison Crowder, Darnell Mooney, or Michael Gallup? Not Michael Gallup.
Crowder, Drake, and Brown.
Cool. 2 QB league. Have Wilson but need a second. Carr, D. Jones, Tua, Trubisky, and Glennon are available. He needs highest upside because the opponent has Big Ben and Mahomes.
All right, so we have. I think Daniel Jones is potentially a little bit sneaky, but we just don't know about him. We don't know if he's a full go yet or not. So at this moment, Yasin, I'm going to go with Mitch Trubisky.
But if Daniel Jones turns into a full go and is doesn't have an injury designation for Sunday, then we Daniel Jones over Trubisky, correct?
Let me see here. It's the number 14 matchup. No, man, we're going to stick with Mitch Trubisky in this one.
Okay. Okay, let me scroll down, guys. Unfortunately, I don't know that we're going to get to all the questions today. We're gonna try, but there are a ton of questions here. Are we starting J.K. Dobbins or Devontae Booker?
Dobbins.
We are. Okay. Are we going Ebron, Andrews, Gurley, or Ayuk? Starting 2. This person's already starting Debo, full point PPR.
Well, I think we go ahead and get Gurley in and pray that they're telling us the truth about his role. And
I think I'm sitting Ebron because I don't know. They might just not throw it to him as much after last week.
Oh man, those drops were bad, right? Look, I think Ebron and Andrews are both solid tight end plays. But I think the best thing is maybe just get both maybe just get all the action with those San Francisco wide receivers.
Gurley and Ayuk.
Yeah. Because look, I think if you're asking to start Ebron or Andrews, this is a flex question. And I'm very lukewarm on 2 tight end lineups. And that sounds to me like what you're going to have if you go with Ebron or Andrews.
You're going to look back on that week and say, why the heck did I start 2 tight ends in the playoffs? Why? You're going to take your head and you're going to shake it saying, why did I start 2 tight ends?
It's a low upside strategy that rarely works out.
Yeah, I agree with that. McKissick or Hunt for Carl's.
Ooh, that's a great question. I think we're going to have Hunt ranked a little bit higher here. So I get it. I get the PPR aspect of this. Let me see here. Kareem Hunt, our number 25 running back, and J.D. McKissick, our number 27 running back. PPR. I don't know. I'll tell you what. Most of our rankings are basically for half point PPR. I'm going to give McKissick the edge in this one for PPR, assuming there's no Antonio Gibson.
Okay. For Israel, Tannehill or Big Ben?
Oh, this is easy. Ryan Tannehill, baby.
Juju or Devontae Parker for Jared Jensen?
Ooh, that's a great question.
I'll tell you, man. I want Devontae Parker in my boxing match corner.
I didn't see that. What did I must have missed? Sounds like I missed something pretty exciting there.
I mean, he has your back. If you're his boy, he has your back, and he proves that. He doesn't mind if he's going to get ejected from a game.
All right, so Devontae Parker we have as our number 23 guy on the week, and let's see what we have for Juju here. Yeah, we're going to go with we'll go with Parker.
Yeah, me too. All right. Let's see. Do pick 2. All right, for Heath, Swift, Rojo, Gio, or Antonio Brown. Yeah, we can play 2 of them.
Swift and Ronald Jones. And if for some reason Swift doesn't go, then I would roll Rojo and Antonio Brown.
Okay, I would do the same. Ridley or Jefferson in PPR for Israel.
Ooh, what an embarrassment of riches there. And this is Ridley, no Julio Jones, so that's probably going to make the difference. We got to go with Ridley when there's no Julio and take our chances here.
Yeah, Minnesota's against Tampa Bay. So that's an interesting
I
question.
mean, I like Justin Jefferson every week, man, but I think logic dictates if there's no Julio, you take your chances with Calvin Ridley in this one.
Yeah. Kyler Murray or Tannehill? Pretty good question. I think you said earlier you have Murray as QB6.
Yeah, I mean, we have Tannehill ranked higher. I mean, that's our overall rankings. This could easily turn into a Derrick Henry game. I would probably play Kyler Murray.
Okay. Pick 3. DJ Moore, if cleared. Curtis Samuel, who has cleared. Tyler Boyd, Kiki Kuti, or I'll try to find this, or T.Y. Hilton.
Well, I'm hoping it's no DJ Moore and you get to play Curtis Samuel, Kuti, and T.Y. Hilton.
Okay. We answered this one earlier, so let's go to number 1 CHC fan. I don't know what CHC is. Chicago? Kyler or Taysom?
I mean, Kyler Murray.
Swift, Melvin, or Hilaire? Dennis.
Definitely Melvin. That's just basically a toss-up between these other two. We're going to Swift.
I'm going Clyde, personally.
All right, that's fair. If we're not sure, let's just do that.
Need 2, Parker, Crowder, Hilton, Godwin, and Clyde. Need 2 wide receivers and 1 flex. I guess we can say who we're sitting.
I mean, definitely Godwin. We want to definitely play Godwin here. And then I think Crowder is fair. Let's go Godwin and Crowder. And then let's play Clyde in our flex.
All right. Just from the Fantasy Life app, by the way, Darren Urban is reporting that DeAndre Hopkins and Kenyon Drake were all, that means at a minimum, they're limited. So I'm expecting them to play. Okay. Let's go to half PPR, Mostert or Zeke, assuming Zeke plays.
Zeke.
Okay. Schultz or Goddard?
Schultz.
Josh Allen or Big Ben?
Josh Allen.
I like the question, though. Start Julio or CMC at my start Julio or CMC at my IR spot. Both of them. Gio Bernard or Devontae Booker, half PPR.
Booker.
We already answered Logan Thomas or Dallas Goedert, I believe, and I think the answer was Dallas Goedert. Was that what you have?
I think we went Logan Thomas on that one. Let me just double check. Boy, Logan Thomas looks like can you believe he used to be a quarterback? Bruce Arians drafted him in the 4th round as a quarterback out of Virginia Tech, and people thought he was nuts. This guy looks like a beastly tight end now. We have Logan Thomas 1 spot ahead of Dallas Goedert. I'd roll with Thomas, man. That guy's he's playing well right now, and they're featuring him in the offense.
Cool. All right. So, are we rolling out Deebo Samuel, or are we picking up Tim Patrick or Pittman? And give me a quick second. I'm going to charge my laptop.
All right. Let's see, San Francisco -3. Let's see what Pro Football Focus says about these matchups. Deebo, decent matchup with Ronald Darby. Pittman, slightly negative matchup. Then who we got? Tim Patrick is the other one I'm really kind of leaning towards here. Tim Patrick actually lined up with Rasul Douglas there. I think we just go with Deebo Samuel.
All right, we're finally getting up, but I think I might have skipped a chunk of questions. I'll try to find them as we're breaking down more games. Okay. All right, I like these interesting questions. Octavius says 100-yard rushing bonus, 25 points. That's a big rushing bonus. Kamara, Gaskin, Rojo, or Clyde? I'm not smart enough to answer this question. This is all you.
If I was going to bet on somebody to have 100 yards in this game.
That's a big bonus.
Yeah, I'd probably bet on Clyde. Okay.
Miguel is asking in PPR, Booker, Hines, Gio, or Dobbins?
Booker, Hines, Gio, or Dobbins? Dobbins.
Okay. Let's see. All right, Brian has a question. Curtis Samuel, Wilson, Tim Patrick, Michael Gallup have a bye, but they need to flex next week and beyond. So let's answer this as rest of season.
I mean, it's either Tim Patrick or Curtis Samuel. I'd look at the schedules and get a handle on how injured, or I guess it's COVID for DJ Moore. So probably Tim Patrick. Look at the schedule, though.
Okay. Follow-up question from Miguel. Marvin Jones, Antonio Brown, or Corey Davis?
Corey Davis.
All right. I believe we answered this earlier, and the answer was Gurley. Jared, Gurley or Ayuk and flex PPR.
Yeah, let's go with Gurley.
Who to flex, Ryan asks. Michael Davis, Gurley, Mostert, Kuti, or Hilton?
Probably roll with Gurley in this one.
Okay. I would as well. Anthony has Thielen and Ridley. So do they start Claypool or AB for the flex?
I'm going to roll Antonio Brown.
Okay. McKissick, Hunt, or Booker? PPR, need one. For me, it's McKissick because of what you said earlier when we matched up McKissick and Hunt, because Booker doesn't beat either of those guys for me.
That's right.
All right. I listen. Dustin has an interesting question. With Mims out, if Crowder doesn't play Sunday, is Perriman against Seattle's terrible pass D worth starting over Marvin Jones?
I'd take my chances. Yeah, that's a calculated risk, man. Marvin Jones can screw you at any time, too. It's a tough, not a great matchup for him either. Let me take a look. Just curious. Always curious to see how PFF has this. Marvin Jones, basically a neutral matchup, and Perriman, same thing. I'm going with Perriman, man. Try to swing this, hit this one out of the park.
Cool. Hey, guys, if you're just joining us, by the way, we're trying to get to as many questions as possible. We'll also get back to breaking down some of the matchups. In the meantime, please like the post, give us a subscribe, like, all that other good stuff that I don't know what to say because I don't do this YouTube thing, but I hope you guys are enjoying it in the meantime. Also, to reintroduce Byron of Rosterwatch. Byron heads out to a bunch of the
training camps, off-season activities,
stuff like that. So, give them look them up on social at Rosterwatch, or check them out at rosterwatch.com. But let's get back to some of the questions that we had before we break down some of these other games now. All right, Aguilar or Antonio Brown?
I'm just going to stick with AB. I'm going to stick with AB.
Okay, there we go. This answers the question. Thanks. And yes, it's Chicago Cubs. That's #1 CHC fan. I'm not a big fan, so I wouldn't have known. Though I have a San Francisco Giants hat and New York Yankees hat.
This guy's a Wrigley Field guy.
Yeah. All right, flex spot, PPR, T.Y. Hilton or Booker?
Let me double check. I want to see this matchup for Hilton really quick again. It's going to be – I'm going to go with Hilton in this one.
I'm going with Hilton as well. Okay, let's see.
Actually, Hilton at Las Vegas. Those two players are from the same matchup.
Non-PPR, so standard league, pick two. Debo, Juju, Kuti, or Booker?
Well, non-PPR, let's get the running back. If it sounds like Josh Jacobs probably going to be out again this weekend. I don't know,
man. He was limited on Thursday. I don't necessarily see him as a lock for being out. I know we're operating as if he probably will be to be safe, because I think everybody's going to know if he's playing, you're not rolling out Booker in most scenarios, right? But not necessarily out. And I wouldn't yet say he's unlikely yet.
I think the guy I'm getting in for sure is Juju. Seems to be that he's guy that, Ben looks for him in the red zone. So I like Juju. I'd probably go with Debo and Juju. And if we hear that Josh Jacobs is out, then I would go with Juju and Booker.
Cool. All right. Okay, I think we're sufficiently caught up. I think we're only a few minutes behind now, which is good. So let's jump back to some of these breakdowns. Matchup you like this week that you want to cover? Otherwise, I'm going to pick another one of the slate.
Just draw one out of the hat.
Who am I pointing at? Green Bay, Detroit Lions.
There we go. There's that Marvin Jones matchup we were just having a look at. And I can see why that individual was interested. I mean, it's a 55-point game total, the highest on the slate. It's incredible matchups across the board for the Packers on the road as 7.5-point favorites at Detroit. It's a top 5 matchup for Aaron Rodgers, who is a top 3 quarterback over at Rosterwatch this week. It's the number 1 matchup of the week for Aaron Jones. One thing I'd be interested to see, I know Aaron Jones had the big 77-yard touchdown that kind of saved his bacon this last week. 66% snap count, 18 touches, a $148 and a touchdown for Aaron Jones. And Jamal Williams kind of regressed. He went back quietly into the night. So, yeah, you got to love yourself some Aaron Jones here. Hopefully heating back up to kind of finish the season for you guys the way that he started it. And then, yeah, I mean, Devontae Adams is the number 4 matchup here. Even Robert Tonyan, man, a guy I thought was left for dead just about a month ago, seems to have really come back into the picture. Another 5-target, 39-yard touchdown game for Tonyan. He's very, very much in play at the wide receiver position. And then this point, I don't think we can really pinpoint a Lazard or a Valdez-Scantling anymore. So I think it's Adams, Tonyan, Aaron Jones. Those are the guys you like. And then Aaron Rodgers, I mean, a must start this week, of course.
Yeah. And what about the Detroit side? Talk to me about these lines.
Well, you know, this is why it's been a difficult question about DeAndre Swift that we've kind of been confronted with over the course of this show, Yasin, because it's the number 7 matchup of the week for running backs on the Lions side of things for DeAndre Swift potentially. And it's really tough matchups at the wide receiver and tight end position. So we like to call that a funnel at Rosterwatch. It's like, if you look at the matchups here, it's a kind of a funnel, especially to that pass receiving running back, given that the Lions are 7-point underdogs. So I think in this one, I mean, you have to, if Swift plays in any competitive situation, I think you're going to have to get him in, and he has an opportunity to do pretty well here. I think Adrian Peterson very easily. They're coming off. Swift had a bad concussion that he had some really bad symptoms. So I would expect AP to still be involved and maybe even get some short yardage or goal line carries. Obviously, that's more of a desperation flex play. Maybe down there below the Duke Johnsons of the world that we talked about earlier, below the Devontae Bookers if there's no Josh Jacobs. But I think he's like a fringe RB3 Adrian Peterson, even if Swift goes in this one. And then, man, you're going to try to avoid Stafford. If you have to play Stafford, the silver lining is it's at home, and this is a 55-point game total. So even though it's a tough matchup on paper, you're hoping there's enough points in this one. He's not a favorable play, but if you're in a total bind, it's not the worst play. And then, I think we're looking at Marvin Jones. We're looking at TJ Hawkinson, both in difficult matchups. But, if you've got to play those dudes, I mean, those are the guys from that side of the offense. So that side of the ball that you want, and they're getting the target share. I think you can still feel okay about it.
Nice. All right. Well, let's move over to Tampa Bay because news just came in that Mike Evans is – let's take a look at the official wording here. Mike Evans practiced in full, so we're expecting him to play. So
yes.
Let's talk about Tampa Bay.
Yes. You could tell somebody on this broadcast owns Mike Evans. Hey, guys, look.
I have no cares.
We still got to get excited about our own teams, man. That's what keeps the enthusiasm up, as much as we always take a lot of pride in how well that our followers and subscribers do as well. So, let's take a look at that one. It is the second highest game total of the week. So this is timely, 52.5 points at Tampa Bay. Let's start with this Tampa Bay side. Look, we know that this Minnesota Vikings defense has been just a must-start spot for all fantasy wide receivers this season. I mean, guys really, really eat against them. So I know it's a little bit of a, it feels a little strange when you got Godwin, Evans, Brown, like Gronk. There's a lot of mouths to feed there, but I think I still think all those guys are good plays in this particular matchup. I think there's enough to go around to make them all serviceable, and there's enough for one of those guys to go off. Which one is it? It's going to be hard to say. Let's see who Pro Football Focus shows the best matchup out of these guys. They've got Chris Godwin with the best matchup out of the group. All positive matchups, but PFF has it Godwin, Brown, Evans in terms of the quality of their matchup, with Godwin being the best, Evans being the lowest of the three, but all still in a very good spot there. And then, I think the sneaky thing is like Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette. I have a feeling one of those guys is going to have a serviceable game here too, Yasin. Let me see. It's the number 14 matchup of the week. I mean, it seems like it would be Ronald Jones, but look, this is just a matchup where you want a piece of the action. If you've got Fournette, I think he's a guy you can even start. It's the Bucs are 6.5 point favorites. A lot of times that shapes up for the running backs to get some action. And like I said, Gronk, a top 5 tight end option this week. And I mean, to me, Tom Brady, even though it's been a little up and down in this particular matchup at home, coming off the bye, I think he's every bit of a top 10 play this week, Yasin.
Very cool. Anybody else you want to jump in about for that matchup before we move back to some questions and wrap up?
I think you keep plugging away with Kirk Cousins, even if you might be a little bit scared off by, the quality of the Bucs defense. I mean, Kirk Cousins has been on fire. And if it's not broken, you really hate to try to fix it in week 14. If that guy has been serving you well the last few weeks, I think a 52.5 point game total at Tampa Bay is not necessarily the place to come off of Kirk Cousins, even though it's not that top 5 or 10 matchup that we've been excited about in recent weeks. And then, I mean, Dalvin Cook facing, just for setting expectations, we have this as basically the worst matchup in the league for Dalvin Cook this week, as not ideal going into your playoffs. But fortunately, he's a guy who can eat in a number of ways. So I think you keep your head up there.
Very cool. All right. Let's take a look at some more questions, guys. While you're here, by the way, and this is going to be our last broadcast of the season, go ahead and subscribe to the channel so you guys know when we kick off, either in the off season or for the new season. So subscribe on YouTube and give us a like and do all that other good stuff. But it's also a great time to follow us on Twitter and Instagram and download the app. So Fantasy Life app on Twitter, and I believe our Instagram handle is also Fantasy Life app. And obviously download the Fantasy Life app. And Rosterwatch is on watch, and you can check them out at rosterwatch.com. All right. Anything else you want to add to that? I got your handle right?
Yeah. Give us a follow, guys. We work hard. We've been at this for 10 years, and we're going to bring you some content this offseason that you don't get anywhere else. Let you have a look behind the curtain as we go to all these off-season events.
Cool. All right. Let's take a look at some of these questions. For M. Hart, are we going Chark, Ayuk, Kuti? We're picking 2 in standard. Who are we sitting?
I want to see what DJ Chark did last week. Let me see here. I know that's been a kind of a tough situation. 7 targets, 41 yards. Yeah, you got to sit Chark. I mean, I think you got to sit Chark in this one.
Non-PPR, Kareem Hunt, Hines, Duke Johnson, since David might not travel.
I'm going to go with Kareem Hunt. They like him in the red zone. I hope he gets a touchdown.
Yeah. How do we feel about Akers moving forward? I'll tell you how I feel about Akers. I feel burned by Akers. I had the opportunity to get him, and I did not. And I was thinking for days, I was like, oh, Cam Akers. Maybe I should grab him. Because he was on waivers in this one league. And I ended up not. And he ended up going off. So I feel burned by him. That doesn't help you with what you should do moving forward. Maybe Byron can tell you what to expect out of Cam moving forward in PPR.
Well, I think that you should feel burned by Sean McVay. I mean, that's where the source of the distrust for this entire situation comes from. I mean, apparently we can have a lot of faith in Cam Akers moving forward. I mean, this is what everybody had in mind, before the season started. We all knew he was a stud in a good situation that had the chops to take the Todd Gurley role. It's never a guarantee with McVay at the helm, but I think we have to take it for what it's worth, man. It looks like he's the guy moving forward here. Of course, you're going to want to look at his matchups to get a handle on exactly how bullish you are on him the rest of the way here.
Yeah, cool. Let's talk standard league. Hurts or Ertz? Hurst or Ertz? Hurts.
Hayden Hurst. No Julio. Hayden Hurst.
Cool. Let's take a look at Crowder versus Seattle, Claypool versus Bills, Antonio Brown. We're sitting 2 of them, so we need to start one.
All right. Crowder, Claypool, or AB. I'm going to go with Yasin here, man. Let's get our boy Crowder in this one. See what happens.
Yeah, I'm down with that, obviously. Are we sitting Hopkins to start Jefferson over him? No. I'm not. Are you?
Ooh, nice.
It's playoff. Could you imagine, again, guys, you're in the playoff. Could you imagine sitting DeAndre Hopkins to start a rookie over him?
You can't do it.
Smart today. You're going to look back in a month while your buddy has a $500 check, $50 of which you put in, and you're going to say, wow, I had DeAndre Hopkins and I sat him for Justin Jefferson. I get it. Justin Jefferson's looking great. He's a rookie. And the other guy's DeAndre Hopkins. So,
yeah, and I think this Bucs defense it's a good matchup on paper for Jefferson. It's a high game total, but that Bucs defense can be kind of exactly what you're saying. Basically, bore itself out in our rankings. We have these guys back to back. Hopkins is number 11, Jefferson is number 12. But in the end, you can't bring yourself to have Jefferson over Hopkins in your rankings. You got to put DeAndre Hopkins in here, unless you're a maniac. If you're a maniac and you love, getting a little bit sideways, then Jefferson is a great play this week, but we're not putting him in over Hopkins in our own personal leagues.
Evan Ingram or Logan Thomas?
Evan Ingram.
Jordan Reed, Dalton Schultz, half PPR for Angel.
It's funny. That one is super, super close. Jordan Reed's actually been showing something here. We got these guys back to back on our rankings. We're going to go with Schultz with the number 2 matchup of the week.
Cool. All right. Hunter Henry or Mark Andrews?
Oh, man. These guys have they have some great options here. We have Hunter Henry, man. Is number
playoffs,
4
man.
tight end of the week.
We're not messing around anymore.
Yeah. Yep. Hunter Henry.
Let's go here, Malik. Scott has a question. Playing against the number 1 seed. Good luck. Are we playing Perriman or Chark in the flex?
Perriman.
Yeah, we're going Perriman. All right, let's see. PPR for Anthony. Let's see. Ron wants to know T.Y. Hilton, C.D. Lamb, or Kiki Kuti in full PPR.
Boy, we got all these Kuti Hilton questions. I think we're going to go with Hilton.
All right. Zach Moss, Edmonds, or Frank Gore? Half PPR.
Oh, that's nasty.
They did not like Zach Moss last week.
No, they sure did not.
Man, I'm sorry you're in RB. Is this the constellation bracket?
What's the word we got on Gore right now? Do we have a word on Gore?
Something did come out. I can't remember what it was at the moment. Let's see. He's still in concussion protocol as of an hour ago.
Well, I mean,
he may get cleared today. So with concussion protocol, if you're even a limited participant, that means using through concussion protocol enough, and it's possible you get cleared soon. That timeline started a few days ago, and there's hope that he's going to get cleared today. And there's also tomorrow when he may get cleared as well. So for now, for this question, Zach Moss, Edmonds, or Frank Gore for RB2 and half PPR for Angel. Let's assume he's playing.
I'd go with Frank Gore.
Okay. Devontae Parker or T. Higgins? I am going Devontae Parker.
Yep, that's right.
All right. Jason wants to know if we're starting Cooper, Chark, Ayuk, Kiki, or Swift. We can start 3 of them, so we're sitting 2.
Well, we'll put put Cooper in, and we'll put Kiki in, and we'll put Swift in. Cooper, Kiki, Swift.
Cool. Average Joe, you're very clever, Average Joe. No, it is not me. It's my team. I'm doing too much while we're doing this for me to be able to say stuff in the YouTube chat. So yeah, no, it's not me typing. That's actually Ryan. Ryan's fantastic. Ryan, thanks for all your help.
He's picked up on your speech patterns.
Yeah. Sorry, Ryan. I blew up your spot. Chark has been a letdown, but great matchup. Okay, let's take a look. Gio Bernard, Cooks, or Antonio Brown in PPR?
I'm going to play Cooks.
I like Cooks. Out of those options, AB would be the other one that I would consider.
Yep.
Brady or Tannehill? I think we're going Tannehill.
I love how these people put full PPR for the quarterback. Tannehill.
Because I'm on autopilot, as if it makes a difference. Okay, Seattle D, 49ers D. Seattle against San Francisco against Washington.
I'd go with Seattle.
Okay. Let's see. All right, here we go. Miguel's another question in PPR. Juju, Mike Williams, Beasley, or Ayuk? Can only pick one. I think you're going to say Juju. I think I'm going to agree with you.
Yeah, this one's either Juju or Beasley for me. I'll probably go Juju.
Cool. Antonio Brown or Aguilar? Thank you for subscribing.
AB.
Harmony, awesome job as always, guys. Thank you, Harmony. Harmony, I see you commenting on and answering questions for everybody as well in the chat. Awesome job to you. All right. Carl says they already have Cook, Hunt, Booker, and McKissick. Not a question.
Yes, sir, Mr. Walker.
All right, let's take a look. I think this person must have missed that we answered this earlier because they've asked it a few times since then. So let's answer this for Anthony. They have Thielen and Ridley already. They want to know Claypool or Antonio Brown for flex.
Man, I think somehow we're all in on AB on this broadcast.
Yeah.
It's a good matchup. I mean, we went over the ratings from Pro Football Focus. AB, I mean, it's a very good matchup for Antonio Brown.
Yeah. Anthony, to answer your question, Miami versus Kansas City, I suppose we could continue to do that, but I'm trying to get caught up on all these questions. So if we do, that'll be our last matchup preview. Corey Davis, Robbie Anderson, or Debo for Nesney.
This one is either Robbie Anderson or Corey Davis. It's an awesome, awesome matchup for Corey Davis. So probably David. Truthfully, no DJ Moore, I'd go Anderson.
Okay.
No DJ Moore, I'd go Anderson.
Yeah. All right, Joey has a question. Choose one wide receiver and 3 running backs. Oh, boy. Guys, this is a long question. Joey, we're going to do it only because it's our last broadcast of the season, but this is a long question. We've got to chop these up a little more. So 1 wide receiver, so T.Y. Hilton or T. Higgins.
Hilton.
Running back, choose 3. Gio Bernard, Kareem Hunt, Raheem Mostert, and then Booker and or Jacobs. I assume he's waiting to play either one based on if Jacobs will play. I'm expecting him to play, by the way.
Yeah, so it's Hunt and Mostert, and then if Jacobs sits, we'll go with Booker. We'll go with we're going to go with the Raiders running back. If either Jacobs is going to play and you're going to play Jacobs, or he's going to sit and we're going to like Booker more than Gio.
Yep. Dustin's asking Taysom Hill or Ryan Tannehill. Tannehill is the answer.
Got it.
Matt Ryan or Tannehill?
Tannehill.
Edward, your answer is Tannehill. Novo, I believe we answered this already. AB or Aguilar? We went with AB.
Isn't it funny the common decision points that some of these folks have?
Yeah. My last question from Israel, Brady or Tanny? I think we already answered it, actually.
Yeah, we have Tannehill ranked higher. I like Brady quite a bit personally this week, but Tannehill's in a great spot.
Non-PPR, Hawkinson or Ebron for Christopher?
Hawkinson.
Drew, welcome. It's okay that you just got here. We'll answer your question. You got to decide between Kyler Murray and Herbert. Kyler got me here. Herbert has been great as well.
Great as well, except for last week. We have Justin Herbert by a hair.
Justin Herbert really looked like a rookie last week, huh?
He did. And this Atlanta defense has been a little surprising in some of these spots. But I think what you hope for is even if it goes south early, they're at home. I think you get garbage time out of Herbert. And you hope for the dead cat bounce after that just abysmal performance last week.
Fant or Goddard?
That's a good question. I think it's going to be Fant, who's been basically disappointing here. But, yeah, we got Noah Fant. Yep.
Okay. Right.
Noah Fant, 82%, 7 targets last week. He led the team. That's good.
A lot of people thanking us. I will extend and let you know as well that they are thanking us. Great job. Baltimore defense or Saints defense?
It's a pleasure to be on the front line for all the Fantasy Life app teams out there, Yasin. I appreciate the opportunity to do this with you guys this year. So we've got
somebody else to blame if we give bad advice.
I'm used to it, man. You get thick skin after a while in this one. Of course. I think we're going to go with the Saints D in this one.
All right, Saints D it is for you, Teddy. Okay, Chris asks, Godwin, A-Rob, Mike Thomas, Jefferson, or Terry McLaurin, half point, need 3 of them. I think we're starting Godwin.
And Jefferson. I might go with Allen Robinson. Godwin, Allen Robinson, and Jefferson.
Yeah, I can't. You can't be too upset with that. Packers D, Panthers D for Christopher.
Packers against the I'll go with the Panthers defense.
Okay. Josh Allen or Brady? I believe the answer is Josh Allen.
Yep.
Hey, we're almost caught up finally. Juju or Marvin Jones for flex? I believe the answer is Juju. Do you agree?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Dustin, the answer is Tannehill. We've answered this like 3 times. Pay attention, Dustin. We love you. Okay. Oh, there we go. What do y'all think at flex with Gurley, Curtis Samuel, Kiki, and David Johnson? David Johnson might not play, by the way. If Moore doesn't play, Curtis' value goes up. I agree with that, and DJ might not play. It's a PPR league. I personally would roll out Gurley.
Yeah, I think it's Gurley, and I think it's Gurley. Yep.
Baltimore D, San Francisco D.
So we have San Francisco against Washington, and then we've got Baltimore at Cleveland. I'll probably go with San Francisco defense.
Cool. And then who are we sitting between Zeke, Cooper, and Robinson?
Probably going to sit Amari Cooper in this one.
Okay. Gary's asking, this is a trust question. This is an emotional question. So I'm going to take a first stab at this first. Can you trust Connor over Gallman or Dobbins? The answer, my friend, is yes. You can absolutely trust Connor over either of them. Does this mean you're going to make the right choice? No, it doesn't necessarily mean that. It's a very logical, reasonable decision to roll out Connor over Gallman or Dobbins. Nobody's going to say that was a dumb move. So you should feel comfortable. You feel it should go. Just remember, it's playoffs. It is the week where you're really going to be upset with yourself if you realize you made a decision based on recency bias or something that wasn't logical. You'll really be upset with yourself if you lose and you're now playing for nothing. So I think this has a lot to do with what you can live with. I would roll Connor over both of them personally. I'd say it's trusting. You can trust to do that, Gary. Byron has actual rankings, and he'll tell you who he has ranked highest.
I think trust is a strong word, man. I think I'd give Wayne Gallman a go here. He has a monopoly on the backfield.
Isn't he at 50% snap count?
Yeah, but nobody else is doing jack back there.
I would call that a monopoly of a committee.
The other guys are very, very small minority owners, man.
Yeah.
Truth be told, I think those are three pretty good options there.
Except for J.K. Dobbins, who I guess almost as a joke now I'm saying I don't roll out. Taylor or Cooper in flex?
Taylor.
Miles Sanders or Tim Patrick? This is a good question. Half-point PPR.
I'd roll Tim Patrick.
Okay. I don't know who I would roll. I mean, the brand value is with Miles Sanders, but Andrews over Ebron due to Ebron's drops last week in PPR.
That's going to be very close. Let me take a look here. Yeah, we have Andrews. Yeah, one spot ahead of Ebron. I'll go with Andrews.
Okay. This person asking about Jacobs' projection is back on the fantasy app. Yes, Scott, I do think he's going to play. He was upgraded from, I believe he was upgraded from DNP to LP at a minimum, but we'll find out later today. You'll get your actual answer today, Scott. They should give out, I'm guessing they're going to list him as questionable, but I wouldn't be surprised if he practices as a limited participant or a full participant today. Fant or Ingram, we went with, I believe it was Ingram earlier. Is that correct?
Yes.
Having a hard time deciding this flex in PPR, Hassan says. Gio Bernard, Cooks, or Antonio Brown?
Cooks.
Cooks it is. All right. You're very welcome, Mr. or Miss or Mrs. Walker. Because I don't know how to pronounce your first name. I'm sorry about that. But we'll go with Carl's. Let's see. Oh, I believe this is a shout to you. Rosterwatch Nation in the house from Lucando. Choke artist here, 7-6. I've got Swift and Cooper in now. We could pivot to Sanders, a Vegas running back, and or Pittman.
Oh, well, I'd love to see somebody representing in here inside the Fantasy Life app for Rosterwatch Nation.
I've seen a few, by the way.
Well, it's great news, man. We're letting everybody know about it because it's been one of our secret weapons this year is what you guys do over at Fantasy Life, Yasin. We thank you guys for what you've brought to the industry in terms of news and everything else, man. You really filled a hole in the market there. So let me see. Tell everyone. Trust me, it's on our site. It's in the podcast. We tell as many folks as we can. I haven't kept it a secret, man. It's a tough business because people want to keep their advantages a secret in this business, man. In any other business, you'd get referrals, not in this one. Let me see here. Swift and Cooper. Yeah, I think I would stick with those guys. I would stick with Swift and Cooper. Yep.
Cool. Christopher asks, is Aaron? So this question, it almost has an obvious answer until you read the second part of it. Is Aaron Rodgers a set and forget QB for the rest of the playoffs? I would normally say yes, but they have Josh Allen as well. Which one this week?
Well, it's Aaron Rodgers this week, and I think you're just going to matchup play those guys down the stretch here. And if all things are close, you're going to play Aaron Rodgers.
Cool. And then we're getting to the end here, guys. We'll go Dobbins, Jacobs, Booker, or Hines?
I think the safe thing is Jacobs, Booker here because I can live with either of those guys if they get the start.
Okay, I agree with that. Kuti, Hilton, or Devontae versus Kansas City, wide receiver 2, half-point PPR. Oh, I was very confused for a moment. Devontae Parker.
I think I like Antonio Brown.
Cool. All right, so Antonio Brown over Hilton, Kuti, and Devontae Parker. I personally would go Devontae Parker, but I can't be upset with Antonio Brown. Mike Davis or Dobbins for Scott to confirm.
We've got Dobbins ranked higher than Mike Davis.
Okay. Carlos, thank you. Thank you. And Carlos is a guy.
Good to know.
Okay, guys, this is the last. These are the last questions that we're going to answer. We're going to break down one last matchup. It's good earlier, Kansas City and Miami. Fantasy breakdown, and then we're going to call it a season, wish everybody luck, and go from there. So why don't we let you take it away, Byron?
All right, let's do it.
Miami. The game kicks off at 1 o'clock Eastern time. We have some interesting matchups here. We have some great offensive players that some people have, let perform for them to get them into the playoffs. Let's talk about it. Let's go Kansas City first.
Yeah, I think this is an exciting matchup just based on how competitive Miami has been, and Coach Flores, a defensive coach. They got the good athletic corners on the outside. I'm very, very interested to see if Miami can hang in this one. They are 7.5-point underdogs at home in a 50.5 point game total. It's one of the top 3 or 4 projected scoring affairs on the slate in terms of the game totals coming off the sports books. So look, we have Miami there. It sounds like they're going back to Tua. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the latest update that I got on the Fantasy Life app, Yasin, is that it's going to be Tua getting the start again here. So to me, that's kind of a downgrade for the receivers. And Devontae Parker already had a relatively tough number 26 matchup of the week in this one. I get that they might be playing from behind, but I don't know. To me, Tua is a downgrade for Parker. Feels more wide receiver 3-ish to me with upside. I think that's a reasonable way to view him in this particular contest. It's Mike Gesicki, though, that has a nice matchup, number 17 matchup of the week. I still like plugging along with Gesicki here. If you need to go with him at the tight end position. And then Myles Gaskin, we said it earlier in the broadcast, it's a top 10 matchup for Myles Gaskin. I think we should absolutely reiterate what Gaskin did in his return last week, because nobody was really quite sure what to expect. It's kind of been a revolving door in Miami at running back this season. We knew Gaskin had a pretty clear handle on that backfield earlier in the season, but it was unclear whether he would resume that role, and he sure did. 71% snap count, 23 touches, 141 yards, only 2 targets for Gaskin. So I wonder if they get, well behind in this game. See, last week was at home in a great game against Cincinnati. In this one, you wonder if they get behind, if you start to see a little more Lynn Bowden Jr., a little more Patrick Laird. Those two had 7 targets between each of them last week. So I'd say that's something to keep in mind. I think that's what makes Gaskin more of an RB, maybe more of an RB2 this week in most formats is, we'll have to see what happens with him if they fall behind at against the Chiefs this week. And then on Kansas City side, it's a really pretty difficult matchup on paper for Mahomes, but clearly that doesn't scare anybody off. It's the number 28 matchup of the week for Patrick Mahomes, and it's a number 15 matchup of the week for Clyde, number 17 matchup of the week for those Chiefs receivers, and number 21 matchup of the week for Kelsey. So Kelsey is still going to be our number 1 tight end of the week. Mahomes, even with the matchup, will be a top 3 quarterback on this week. To me, the questions are mostly around the running back position. Like, a lot of people feel super burned by what happened with Clyde this last week. He was active for the game, but he had like the flu that week and had lost a bunch of weight, and people felt compelled to play him, in week 13, it was like do or die in their fantasy regular season. And they played Clyde and they got burned, but I wouldn't make too much of that. I think if you survive that and you made it to your fantasy playoffs, this is a spot where you can feel pretty confident going back to Clyde, because let's take a look last week. I want to see here, Le'Veon Bell, how prolific was he last week in that absence? It was 13 touches for 55 yards. Not a bad performance, but I think it leaves plenty of meat on the bone for Clyde Edwards-Helaire in this one, making him I think probably a low-end RB2, obviously with a significant upside. And then let's just see what Pro Football Focus says about the individual wide receiver matchups here. We all know Tyreek Hill's going to be a must start no matter what. But in this particular situation, it's the outside cornerbacks that we can struggle with. Sometimes these long guys like Byron Jones and Xavier Howard from Miami. I think we're going to see Tyreek Hill get moved around a lot, which indicated here by Pro Football Focus. He has one of the best matchups of the entire week. So this could be a super blow up spot for Tyreek Hill, even though it's a little bit tricky on the surface versus this defensive backfield.
Cool. All right. Well, unless you have anything else to say about Kansas City versus Miami.
Think that's it, man. I don't think we're going to Sammy Watkins or Demarcus Robinson or any of those dudes unless we're in desperation mode. So Good luck to everybody. And it's time to finish the job, folks. It's been a long season. We brought you through to this point, and we want to hear stories of trophies.
Yes, please bring home the trophies. We will be very happy and proud of you guys for bringing them home. For us at Fantasy Life app, very excited that you guys have joined us for the majority of the season. We will most likely pick this up again, maybe some episodes over the off season, but I'm hoping maybe next year as well. I want to thank everybody for joining us. Want to thank Byron for joining us, Byron of Rosterwatch. Check them out. They have great off-season content as well as tools and content to get you through the regular season as well. So, give us a like, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. But check us out. Again, it's Yasin from the Fantasy Life app. I'm at YouFoundYasin on Twitter. I'm at Yasin in the app, YASIN. And Byron from Rosterwatch, you can give you can plug yourself.
Well, you guys can find everything we do at rosterwatch.com or on Twitter at Rosterwatch. You can find us on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform if you just searched Rosterwatch. And I think where you guys will see us do our best work is in the offseason. We'll be at the Senior Bowl. We'll be covering the NFL draft like few others do in this business. And then I'll be off to training camps next summer as I do annually. And I invite each and every one of you to come have a look at what we do. I think you'll be really excited by the content that we deliver in the off season. And most importantly, I want to wish everybody a safe, happy, healthy holiday season, Yasin.
Yes. Happy holidays to everybody and best of luck in the playoffs. Thanks again for joining us. Take care, everybody.